Right now on the National Weather Desk, flood fears as snow melts in the mountains, water rising in the valleys, causing problems across Utah.
It's been going through here, breaking through all the sandbags that we've put up.
Dramatic rescue. See what happens after a landslide trapped people visiting a Mount St. Helens observation area. Also, are you ready for the arrival of El Nino?
And that, in turn, changes the weather pattern pretty significantly.
Bird migration. How tools used to forecast the weather are helping experts follow flocks, too.
Monitoring them helps us understand the health of our environment a little bit better.
And we're hunting for morels, some of the most prized and expensive mushrooms you can find.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. People in Weber County, Utah are bracing for flooding as rising water threatens their homes. The South Fork River between Huntsville and the Causey Reservoir are running very high. At least one home has been evacuated along with 8 employees from a local resort. As Daniel Woodruff reports, emergency managers are keeping an eye on the situation.
You can see there's basically no room between the water and this bridge. It's an important bridge for Lynn Berry, who lives here.
Only way in. In fact, I even said I'm parking my truck outside because if something does happen, this bridge is gone. There's no way getting the truck back out.
The South Fork River is raging. Downstream, it flooded Wayne Hill's kitchen.
It's been going through here, breaking through all the sandbags that we've put up.
Weber County emergency managers are assessing the situation, but they expect things will get worse as it gets warmer.
We anticipate further flooding.
It's not just houses impacted by all this high water. Here in Weber County, multiple campgrounds like this one totally flooded.
Luckily, the campsites haven't opened for the year.
Neighbors tell me after sandbagging all they could, they're just trying to survive all this water, which they hope at some point will slow down.
July? Maybe. There's a lot of snow up there that hasn't even started to melt.
He's right. The river isn't the only problem in Utah. There's still plenty of snow in the mountains that still needs to melt. As Paul Nielsen explains, people living in the canyons are now wondering how long it will take for the water to start flowing into their communities.
Bill Clayton has lived along Little Cottonwood Creek for over 20 years. The highest he's ever seen it was back in June of 2010. So far, the river hasn't been a problem for him this year, but he's stocked up just in case.
Yeah, we have a good supply of sandbags, and we've talked to the county, and they have cleaned out some driftwood piles that are further upstream.
This is one of 4 areas along northern Utah that have over 100 inches of snow in nearby peaks. Utah Snow Survey Supervisor Jordan Clayton says the snow density in those spots is over 50%, so they still have a lot of water.
We have a site at Snowbird. We also have one across the valley at the town of Alta. They both have over 100 inches still. Farmington, we have one close to the Farmington Peak area. That one still has over 100 inches of snow. Ben Lomond Peak still has over 100 inches.
So what does this mean for Big and Little Cottonwood? Salt Lake City consulting hydrologist Brian McInerney says Big Cottonwood Creek is running at almost 400 cubic feet per second. And by Monday, levels are expected to double into low flooding stage.
This channel really can't handle those flows. And we could go higher than that as we progress through the 3rd and 4th week of May.
For now, Salt Lake County Emergency Management is getting sandbags and diversion barriers ready. Director Clint Meekum says they've pre-staged bags in places where they've seen flooding problems in the past.
How are you keeping an eye out for maybe new problem areas that you're not necessarily focused on?
We've never seen anything like the amount of snowpack that we have. So in general, we've been using the FEMA 100-year floodplain maps to kind of anticipate where we may have problems.
Several people and one dog were rescued after a landslide wiped out the bridge to a Mount St. Helens observation area. The landslide happened Sunday. The people were rescued by helicopter yesterday. The road and observation area are now closed until further notice. The observatory provides a view of the huge crater that was formed when Mount St. Helens erupted 43 years ago this week on May 18th, 1980. And rescue and relief operations are underway in Southeast Asia after Cyclone Mocha made landfill Sunday. It's one of those powerful cyclones to ever hit Myanmar and Bangladesh, reportedly making landfall with wind speeds up to 175 miles an hour with a storm surge up to 11 feet. Aid groups are preparing for a large-scale loss of life inside of impoverished areas. It's been 13 years since a storm with that type of strength hit that region. Fishing season is well underway in most parts of the country, but people in Knoxville, Tennessee are worried because hundreds of dead catfish were found dead in one lake. Local officials say the water is safe, but as Sam Pina reports, this has done little to ease concern from local fishermen.
It's a way of life here, fishing on the Chickamauga Lake. But this is a sight many people were not expecting to see. Hundreds of dead catfish, prompting concern and an investigation from the TWRA.
It's where I fish. It's where I come to clear my brain. I love it here.
A lifetime on the Chickamauga Lake.
I was born and raised. I've been on this lake all my life.
Disturbed by the sight and smell of rotting catfish.
Ugh.
Kimberly Saldana says she first saw the dead fish 2 weeks ago.
Are you seeing this? Look at this. Seriously, are you seeing this?
And has since seen the numbers continue to grow.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's an odd event she fears could have devastating impacts for the local community.
There's a lot of people that actually fish for their food for their family.
The TWRA says they still don't know what caused the deaths of the fish, but say that water tests revealed normal levels for fish health.
It looks bad, it feels bad if you're a fisherman and you see lots of dead fish floating around.
Fishing expert Richard Sims says that other state catfish deaths showed bacterial infections that could cause deaths for channel catfish.
As long as we know it's not a point source pollution, that it's not a company or somebody pouring pollution into the river, there's really not a whole lot we can do about it.
But when we last spoke to the TWRA, they said there are, quote, several clues that allow us to know this incident is not due to chemicals, bacteria, or a virus.
This is not normal.
But when we asked today, they told us they're sending biologists back to the lake this week to collect samples. A relief for Kimberly.
I think it's excellent. I think they need to. I think they need to come out quick because something is definitely going on.
Who hopes the calming waters will be the only sight and smell on the lake.
In the past few years, you've been hearing a lot about La Nina, but that weather pattern ended earlier this year, and now we are transitioning. Gum says this can have a big impact on the weather in the coming months.
So what exactly is El Nino? Well, in most typical years, trade winds tend to pile up warmer water off the coast of Asia. However, in El Nino years, those trade winds weaken, and we tend to get warmer water that forms off the coast of South America. And that, in turn, changes the weather pattern pretty significantly. So during El Nino years, we tend to see warmer weather conditions across the northern half of the country. Meantime, across the southern half of the country with an active jet stream, we tend to see wetter than normal conditions, with perhaps a little pocket of drier than average conditions across the Ohio Valley and mid-Mississippi River valleys. The other thing that El Nino can do is lower the amount of hurricane activity in the western Atlantic Ocean, particularly in the Caribbean. It doesn't tend to impact the Gulf of Mexico quite as much, but generally speaking, we tend to get fewer hurricanes during El Nino years versus neutral years or during La Nina years. So that's something else to keep in mind as we go through the next few months. That's something you're going to hear a lot about. El Nino, as it starts to form, perhaps becoming a strong El Nino and having impacts on the weather across the nation.
And here's some gorgeous footage of Glacier National Park. Missoula, Montana meteorologist Jed Kristoff shot this during his weekend visit. What you're seeing here, Lake McDonald and Avalanche Creek. Lots of cold, crisp, clear water rushing down to fill lakes and also streams. And a reminder to check out our podcast, Off the Radar. A new episode is out today. It's all about Mars and what the weather on the red planet is really like. New episodes drop every Tuesday, and you can find Off the Radar wherever you get your podcasts. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll join a group of firefighters known as smoke jumpers to find out how they prepare to jump from a plane into the heat of wildfires. Plus, a look at how weather radar is being used to track bird migration. And as we go to break, we leave you with a flock of white egrets.
meteorologist Charlie Lopresti would look at the Northeast. One more mild day is on tap for today before things start to change on Wednesday. You'll notice a big cool down in the Northeast Wednesday. And the reason for that, we have a cold front moving through. We'll bring with us some showers this evening and tonight. And the wind picks up out of the northwest. Cooler air will start to move in out of Canada for Wednesday. Hey, look at 70s and 80s this afternoon. As we go into Wednesday, though, we're having a hard time getting out of the 50s. There could be a frost in many areas Wednesday night into Thursday morning.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Looks like a cloudier day for most on Tuesday, especially from southern Maryland southbound. There could be some on and off rain as well as our next weather maker moves on through. The extreme northern portions of the area may get away dry with some of the warmer temperatures closer to 80, but everybody else a little bit more moist, mid to upper 70s, Baltimore near 80 degrees, Roanoke and Richmond. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Peter Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looking at 86 in Raleigh, 84 in Charleston, a warm one in Macon at 88 degrees, Nashville 85, 90 Birmingham, 90 Jacksonville, Tampa about 89 degrees. Looking at a day starting off with sun and clouds, but you can see a line of showers and thunderstorms developing over near Knoxville, north of Atlanta, over towards Birmingham and Huntsville. It looks like you'll probably get some thunderstorm activity moving through your area. A little bit heavier downpours through the evening, rush hour, so be prepared for that.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
Weather radar technology revolutionized the way we track rain, hail, and even tornadoes. But did you also know that it's used to track birds? Emily Gracie sat down with a bird migration specialist to talk about how they do this and why it's important to track bird migration patterns.
It's a way to help engage people with the world around them, something they just don't know, and this amazing, enormously huge spectacle. I think it's also really important to study it because birds are really great environmental indicators. So monitoring them helps us understand the health of our environment a little bit better, and bird migration specifically, because it is so closely tied over evolutionary history to changing climate and the way that the planet, sort of the pulse of the planet, has changed over time.
How do you track birds on radar?
Birds are really just like big raindrops, right? So it's sort of like a hydrometeor, but just in some other kind of package. As a human, when I look at it, just as a meteorologist, says, oh, okay, that's precipitation. And this stuff that's a lot more uniform, that's much more regular and is actually not associated with anything when we ground truth it, that's meteorology. Okay, we know that's birds. So there's some components of both. There's both the ground truthing historical perspective, and there's also the understanding of what the sort of metrics are. As soon as we start to teach models how to recognize what we as birdcasters and you as meteorologists can detect on weather radar just by eye, then we can start to use machine learning and computer vision to start to recognize those patterns more quickly, relate them back to the metrics, and just sort of build from there.
So how do you distinguish between bats and birds or insects and birds or other stuff floating around?
It's a real challenge, and it's definitely not perfect. There's some of it that's a little bit of trial and error that we're starting to learn as we go. Some of it is based on supporting information that we can use kind of to screen and to filter. And then some of it is also based on ground truthing with more sensitive instruments, finer scale radars and or thermal imagers, or places where we might go out and observe bats and insects and birds and say, oh, okay, here's what's represented in this particular pulse volume, and then relate that back to the weather surveillance radar data.
When wildfires rage, sometimes the defense falls from the sky, literally. Firefighters known as smoke jumpers, skydiving and dropping to the scene of a fire. There are just 7 U.S. Forest Service smoke jumper bases in the country. Wright Gazaway gives us a look at one in the Pacific Northwest.
Jump spot, 5-1, the ground wind's still the same.
This is not a pleasure flight.
Ground winds are 2 to 3 out of the southwest. 2 to 3 out of the southwest.
You're looking at wildland firefighters.
1,500, get in the door.
Always on call when a fire rages out of control.
You're clear, you're clear.
This group fights from the air.
Get ready!
Jumping from airplanes, parachuting to the fire lines, in this video, dropping into the Klamath National Forest.
Down here is more of the business end of what we do.
And now, they're training for fire season 2023.
This is our gear bag.
They skydive with almost 100 pounds of gear from just 3,000 feet.
When that alarm goes off, there's not a person here that doesn't get really excited. Whether you're on the load or not, whether you're a rookie or that's your 30th year smoke jumping, like, people love it. Everybody's going to run to this room.
The group mostly goes to fires in areas that ground crews can't get to by road or trail. Sometimes the fires are as small as an acre. They say once they land, their job is pretty much like any other wildland firefighter. They train to limit the risks you and I assume come along with jumping out of a plane into a forest from a few thousand feet above the ground.
The risk is there. It's our job, and that's the reason we try to get as good as we can at it.
This is the plane smoke jumpers go up into the air in. It's set up for 10 smoke jumpers, 2 pilots, a spotter, and an assistant spotter. It's in the air as early as February for training. Smoke jumpers jump all the way through the end of fire season. Josh Cantrell is the Redmond Smoke Jumpers base training manager.
When they call us, we expect to go suppress the fire. Full suppression. Initial attack, full suppression, put the fire out.
They go to fires you may never even know about.
Bad on tack.
The goal is you never find out.
Good for now.
Spring is mushroom season, and morel mushroom hunting is one of the best ways to enjoy the outdoors. And morels can be found in nearly every single state. Meteorologist Heather Bricka is in northern Michigan and went morel mushroom hunting to find out how you can locate them on your own.
May marks the start of trying to find these elusive fungi in the woods.
This is a great time to get out there and start looking for these morels. Typically, the darker morel comes early in the season, so the last week or two we've been finding them, but our weather's been so precarious that now that we're leaning towards some warmer climate and we've got moisture in the ground, it's really a wonderful time, like right now, to get out there.
It takes warmer days like this weekend, where it'll be more likely for them to start popping up.
They can fruit from anywhere from April to June, but May is the primary time when people start calling us and saying, where can I find these mushrooms? I'm so excited to get out in the woods. So we're always excited to talk about that. I always recommend going out like after a good rain when it warms up. So don't be fooled by Fool Spring. It's the next big warm up. So
they are hard to find, but when you do find them, it's exhilarating.
Oh,
there you go.
And it breaks off that easily.
But you need to make sure the mushroom you find is an edible morel and not a poisonous mushroom instead.
Cut this morel in half, gently not to cut myself. Indeed, you're going to see that it's hollow.
And because they are hard to find, don't be discouraged if you don't find any, especially the first time.
It's a chance to commune with nature. It's really just a wonderful experience, win-win, even if you don't find any. Getting out there, getting some exercise, taking a chance to become associated and learning your land.
And you might worry about allergies if you go mushroom hunting, because when spring rolls around, we often hear about allergy season, but that's not exactly true. As meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains, you can sniffle and sneeze, of course, all year round because of allergies.
It's spring, also known as allergy season, because so many people sniffle and sneeze during the spring season. But did you know that allergy season actually lasts all year long? It's just the type of allergen in the air that changes. In the springtime, trees start to bud and bloom, which releases the tree's pollen into the air. If you're allergic to tree pollen, you'll find yourself sniffling and sneezing from the spring to the early summer. In the summertime, the focus shifts to grass. Grass pollen is highest from late spring to early autumn, basically the months when you have to mow the lawn. Summer can also be a time for mold allergies, especially in hot, humid climates. The weeds take over in autumn, especially ragweed. If you're allergic to the weeds around you, you'll find yourself suffering from late summer into the early fall. Mold can also still be a problem in the fall due to wet soil and fallen leaves. If you suffer from allergies in the winter, it's most likely from indoor allergens like dust mites, pet dander, and even mold. So if you notice a pattern of sniffling and sneezing at various times of the year, it makes it a little easier to figure out what allergen might be bugging you.
And as we go to break, a look at the beauty of Central California.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. We do have some scattered showers and storms across the southern part of the Ohio Valley, but the rest of the plains here looking pretty good for the day today. Let's continue into your Wednesday. Got a few showers and storms starting to move in the Dakotas and far western Nebraska there on Wednesday, while most of us are dealing with plenty of sunshine, and that rain continues to drift its way east on Thursday. Still a lot of sun across the Ohio Valley and a little cooler for Bismarck.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting off a little warm and humid down along the Texas coast and Louisiana coast. A little further back one up to the north, a little cooler. Temperatures into the 50s. A weak cold front will make its way southward today, kicking off a few little showers, bringing clouds, keeping temperatures just a little bit below the normal in some areas. Otherwise, look for highs in the 70s and into the 80s today. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. The heat still bearing down, especially over the desert Southwest. Back to the triple digits today out of Phoenix and not far behind at 95 out of Vegas. Look at the cool temps around coastal California, just 60s there, courtesy of the fog there. The May gray, as they call it, around San Francisco and Los Angeles. You can see the scattered thunderstorms that will bubble up across the west later today. And that's the scene from here.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
With the warmer weather here now, people and their pets are spending more time around the water or even, by the pool. For some tips to keep you and your pets safe around the water, return to veterinarian Devin Smith.
Swimming is a great form of exercise, but you need to be careful with pets around water. Not all dogs are great swimmers, and so care should be taken to slowly introduce your pet before diving right in. They do make life vests for pets, which is a great safety measure to take, especially if you plan on boating with your dog. Finally, just like with children, pets should never be left alone around a pool or a body of water, regardless of how confident you are in their ability to swim. If you ever have questions when it comes to what's best for your pet, I also recommend reaching out to your local veterinary professionals. We'd also love to see your favorite pet moments that you can share with our community. Go to our news app, click Explore, chime in and upload your pet-tastic photos.
And we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk, and we will be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at how wildfires are playing a major role in poor air quality. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here.